Welcome to season 14 of the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week I am talking with Quinn Borchard, who is the coach / dad of two boys. James, age 12, who is the current number one 12-year-old in the country, and Bo, who is age 9 and just starting his tennis journey. And it is so interesting to talk to Quinn and hear his philosophy behind coaching his sons and how he balances being dad and being coach and making it all work so that family life stays peaceful and calm and tennis life stays peaceful and calm. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with him. Before I bring him on, just a quick reminder, if you are a tennis parent and would like a little bit of guidance on this whole tennis journey thing, I am here for you. I offer one-to-one consultations that you can book through our website, ParentingAces.com. So if you're interested, or if you have any questions, just need to vent to somebody, need to kind of clear up some things, I'm here for that. Go to ParentingAces.com, click on the shop tab, and you will see your options there. Also, while you're in our shop, we have some cool merch, including our caps and some shirts. So take a peek around. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with coach / dad, Quinn Borchard. Quinn Borchard, welcome to the podcast. Super great to see you. I think we met in person a couple years ago at Easter Bowl, and I'm really glad to reconnect with you.
Thanks for having me on. I'm honored. This is cool. I'm excited.
Well, the reason for doing this episode is that there's so many ways to develop a young player through the different stages of tennis and get them to a space where they are able to reach their full potential, to achieve the goals that they set for themselves. And I thought it would be fun for you to share your journey with James so far.
Sure.
And just before we kind of dive in, can you just let us know a little bit about your background in tennis and what your role is with your son and his tennis development?
Okay, so my role, my tennis background is I was a junior and nationally ranked junior, in late 90s. I was like top 5 in Southern Cal, top 50 nationally, like played Andy Roddick at Kalamazoo, went on a full ride to University of Portland. I played 4 years for them. And then kind of started teaching, playing a little bit afterwards. And then I've been at Sunset Hills Country Club. I'm the head professional. I've been there for 17 years. And so, yeah, and still play some, had a good run in like the 35s for a little bit. And then James and the others tennis kind of took over. And then I kind of just primarily focusing more on the junior stuff and also being a head pro at a club with also servicing all the members as well.
That's a lot to balance.
A lot. Absolutely. And it's not just James, but I have about 6 or 7 other national juniors that I do coach. So it's definitely a delicate balance that we're trying to kind of do.
Well, we're going to talk about like when you have your dad hat on and when you have your coach hat on and
Sure.
how that all works in your family. But I want to start at the beginning because I think it will help people to understand like how this journey started for you and your decision to introduce your son to tennis, because a lot of former players choose not to do that.
Right. Yeah. So, kind of crazy. I mean, like, obviously, like this is I'm in a place of privilege that I could actually do this. I mean, obviously wouldn't necessarily recommend other parents doing this because I'm a tennis pro, I can kind of do what I did with James, which is amazing and great. But again, like I'm no expert, and I'm literally every day is a different learning experience, especially being parent coach for James. So James. My wife and I had James, and he was about 2, and I'm obviously a pro at a club, and so I'm at the club, a lot. And so, and being a proud, dad of, first time dad, and I always had James with me, and James always wanted to be with dad. And so at about 2.5, we're messing around, and like I'm getting like little cones, plastic cones, and putting balls on them and getting him put a racket in his hand, and he was hitting balls, and like we would do stuff. And I thought, I mean, I always under 5, under 6 is like for me, like has always been like, yeah, that's just not, there's nothing we can really do other than like, kind of mess around. But at 2, I really felt like, oh wow, this is not horrible. Like this is actually kind of, he can do some things. Like it wasn't amazing stuff, but it was like, wow, this is cool. Like, but we didn't have like a under 10 program at our club. So I was like, well, it'd be awesome if I could get James and a couple of his buddies from like, Mommy and Me, and like maybe we can do a class. And then from that, like we did a 2 and 3-year-old class, if you can believe it. And like we went, and we also got other kids, so 4 to 5 years old, 6 to 7, and 8 to 10. So we did an entire program on Sundays that was under 10. And that's kind of how it started. And
Can I
crazy.
interrupt you 1 second?
Sure.
What did those classes look like? What were you doing with 2, 3, 4,
So
5-year-olds?
they definitely were kind of a little bit of a work in progress, because you're kind of like, especially with 2 and 3 and 4, like you've got wildly different abilities and wildly different like attention spans. And so basically what we were doing in those classes were like, we were just learning how to hold a racket and in a ball. We did a lot of like kind of balls on cones work, some balloons work, hard outside with the wind and stuff. But biggest thing kind of was just like less tossy ball stuff and more like we tried to like figure out like, and it's really hard, especially for like under 6, because they don't understand what tennis is. They really don't. They don't understand like the sending and receiving, and like they just, someone puts a racket in their hand and the ball and they swing. And so like my thought was that let's really try to work on passing back and forth things, sending and receiving, sending and receiving. So at some point we can get them to kind of think about rallying, because what I always felt when James really, and all the other kids that came out of this program, like I felt like once they figured out like the rally, man, it became a lot different. It was a lot different, and it was a lot more fun because now it can go back and forth. And so that was kind of like the primary focus, but and like but like that was like, and it was a 45-minute class. Like that was like 10 minutes of the class. 35 minutes was like just fun, having like just running around, having a lot of fun, like tennis. Like we did stickers at the end. So it was mostly some learning, kinda, but like, and I wanted them to have enough fun so they would want to come back next week. And that was really kind of the most like important thing, I thought.
I'm so glad you added that fun part, because yeah, it's crucial. You've got toddlers basically,
Right.
and their attention spans are this big, and there's got to be some incentive to want to be there and having fun and running around and giggling and hitting a ball back and forth with your buddy. That's incentive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so like that's kind of where it all started, is having fun, playing, like doing tennis related things, and that you would come back next week and be like, oh, I really like that, and like it's a lot of fun. And like, we could like hide the ball in a cone, or like, just like some stuff. And it was I mean, it worked out pretty good. So
Yeah.
like, but it was fun. I mean, like definitely like a fun one to, especially for like a tennis pro, like you don't do a lot of like under 10, like a
Mhm.
lot. And so like that really changed kind of a lot of my thinking in early development stuff, if that makes sense.
And how did you, I mean, were you educating yourself along the way in terms of long-term athletic development and things that, skills that these kids should be gaining? Or did you just kind of innately or intuitively have that knowledge and
It was
share
always
it
kind
with
of
them?
based on like it was always based on what I thought James would think was fun. Like what would I think that he would think was cool? Like how like we had like a thing that like a little apparatus that like it kept the ball like floating in the air.
Mhm.
Like the kids love that. Like it's a floating ball that they could hit. And so like anything that was just super fun and like yes, tennis related was good, but not necessarily like, like there wasn't a crazy science to it. Like yes, but like as soon as I could get them rallying, that was like kind of like the key. Like in rallying, like I would rally, like I'd toss them a ball and they'd hit it back to me and I can kind of like just a little bit, but that's when the thing started to kind of go. And it was always kind of like to try to figure out what's like the slowest ball you could use that could kind of float in the air that they can kind of get that concept. So I know it's there's wasn't a lot of thought to it, but then there was a lot of thought to it. So yeah.
And so once the kids were rallying back and forth, what triggered for you a thought that, hey, I've got a kid with some talent here, and maybe it's time to move beyond just, these fun and games at age 2, 3, 4?
So it was interesting because it wasn't just James. Like I had a couple, like you could tell, like, we had a program of like 60 kids, and you can tell like
Wow.
about 10 to 12, you're like, oh, okay. Like these kids could be good. But then like COVID hit, right? So then it went from like, okay, like there was a pretty decent pathway of kind of like, oh, well, maybe they can do like an orange ball tournament or something like that. And then like COVID hit and it was like, okay, we're done. And so we got lucky because the kids that could really rally, like because it was COVID, I would just have them because there was like nothing really else to do. And like they just played for a while.
And
And
so they were like age 7?
it was like James was probably 5. Um,
Okay.
and like the oldest one that I had was like 9 or 10.
Okay.
But they were kind of like on that same ish level. Um, it's the same kid, like the same kids that I'm still teaching. It's the same, it's the same one. So like, so we just played a ton of like tennis, and then I knew about little Mo, and James he was like 7, and I was like, okay, well, I want him to play little Mo because I just want to see like where he's at, like, and because I have no idea, like I've never like that young. I was like, he's decent, like he can rally and stuff like that, like he's not bad. So like we'll just do little Mo, and so like I had to put him in like a couple tournaments to kind of see like is this even a thing, and then like he did like he went into like a level 6 tournament and like got to the semis in his first one. So I was like, and I kept thinking, I was like, God, James is just lucky. These guys are just missing. And like I never was like, oh, this guy could play. I was like, oh, he makes balls. And so then he went to Little Mo, and I was just like, because like at Little Mo, like if you get to the semis of the regional, you get to go to the nationals. And I was like, oh, okay, well, hopefully he can just like get to the semis. And like he won his first match like 6-0, 6-0. And I was like, just like, oh my gosh, wow, that's crazy. And then he won the next one. And then he won the regional. And I was like, oh, okay, well then maybe he is pretty decent at this age. And then he went to the nationals and won that. And so I was like, oh, okay. So maybe I have something more than I really thought. And then but that was, it was a catalyst that it's not just him, but it's also the other kids in the program. Like then it was like, oh, okay, well then let's start doing this to really, like he was young. He was pretty young, but
Like how young at that point?
he had just turned 8 when
Okay. And
he
how much of this was coming from James, and how much of this was dad's providing this environment? And okay, I'm going to show up because it's my dad and my buddies are there. But it could have been soccer. It could have been anything.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like with James, it's always been like, well, he just wants to be with me. Like whatever I'm doing, let's do it. We're good. Like, and
That's so
so
sweet.
like we've always been like buddies in that way. Like, especially as he was younger, like, like he just wanted to be with me. Like, I remember we did all the classes, and I remember the classes were, you know, for ages 2 to 3, 4 to 5. And then when he was like 4 or 5, he was like, well, can I do the other classes? Because I just want to hang out with you all day. And so I was like,
Oh,
okay, well yeah, that's cool. And like he was good enough to play. So it's always been kind of just like we're buddies kind of in this together. And I mean, it continues to be that way. Obviously it gets a little different as we go into adolescence, but
we can get to that in a minute.
yeah. And so, and it's an interesting question as to like, I've always asked myself, like, is he playing for me or is he playing for himself? And so those are the questions that I've often asked that he, like, but I'm pretty sure he plays for himself. And like, especially now as he's older, it's like, like he doesn't need to play for my approval anymore. And so, but yeah, it's just always been just kind of like two buds
I
hanging.
love it. And so he goes to Little Mo, he wins regionals, goes to nationals, wins nationals. That, I'm assuming that's the 8 and under Little Mo.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait a minute, this kid's got something. He's just won this tournament. That's pretty big deal. What was going through your head at that point of, okay, what do we do next?
Yeah. So basically kind of like after that, I was like, well, it's hard because like it's kind of a weird one, but I mean, especially for your viewers and stuff like that, like the green ball, red ball, orange ball conversations have always been a thing, especially with me and especially with James. So
In what way?
just because like when he started, like we've done all the red, orange, and green progression. Like I taught with red balls, I taught with orange balls, I taught with green balls. Like those were all of the classes were different colored balls. Where you have another school of thought is like, well, why would they even do that? They should just do yellow ball. And which I understand. I understand both kind of schools of thought. And so like when James won Little Mo, that was yellow ball. And they do have a green ball division for like the regionals, but like that's a yellow ball and he was 8. So I was like, okay, well then he can just play. But in SoCal, there's no 10s. There's really not 10s. Like there's 10s, but it's like green ball and it's like a round robin and it's not really, I mean, it's not like an actual like tournament-ish setting. So that was like, okay, well then I guess he's just gonna play 12s he just turned 8 and he'll just play 12s and then we'll just kind of see where he goes. And then like, but he like just kept doing really well. And so
Can I ask you, when you were making that choice to have him play kids up to 4 years older than he was, where was he in his physical development? Was he a big kid, a little kid? Were you concerned at all about injury or anything like that?
I mean, not really. I mean, like I wasn't like there's a ton of thought, but like it always seemed like he could handle it. And like he's not like a small kid. He's not huge, but he's not small. And so he could always like hang and like I mean, but he was in, L5, L4, like playing with a 26-inch racket. Like I mean he won like he's just always made it work. I don't know how to like say it, but like when he won Little Mo Nationals, he won with a second serve that was an underhand serve. He just served underhand. That's how he did that and so it's just kind of like I don't know if I felt any like he's never really been hurt. And so and he just seemed to he seems to enjoy playing a lot. And so I wanted to see kind of like, well, how far can this guy go? And while it's like, and at that point, like when you're like 8 or 9 and you're like, you can travel and play with these kids. And I think he was kind of having fun with it, like that he was like doing really well. And it's just, like, I think he got a kick out of it, and then, just kind of kept going.
Mhm. Okay, so now he's playing 12 and unders. He's continuing to grow. He's continuing to develop. What was your day to day with him from, let's say, age 8 to 10? How much was he training? How many tournaments was he playing, etc.?
So I would say training wise wasn't crazy. I mean, it was like he would go to school, he would play maybe an hour and a half after in like classes, and maybe like once or twice a week would have a lesson with me, maybe. And like that was kind of that.
Every day or?
Yeah, every day. Like he'd do his little clinic, and then he'd do another one, and then that was usually about an hour and a half a day, maybe 2 if we crazy. And lessons, like even though it's like it's his dad and stuff like that, like it's still lessons. Like there's only so much you can really do.
Yeah.
That was really, I always felt like that was worth it. So it was like about 45 minutes, hour, that I thought was decent. So, and then tournaments though, like he's always really liked playing tournaments. I would say that he was decently heavy with the tournaments scheduled with the amount of matches, like, but like that's how I was too. So like I don't, like everything just seems familiar at this point for me. So like he would play like 90 to 100 matches per year.
Wow,
Which
that's
is
a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah, absolutely. And plus
But you guys are in
doubles too.
SoCal. You're in SoCal, and
You can
there's
play
a
a tournament
lot.
every weekend if you want.
There's something local. It wasn't like you were having to get on a plane every
Right.
week to go play tennis.
Right. And he's not like he's never been a guy of like, oh, I'm just really gonna train really hard, and then like I'll play one tournament a month, and then like he doesn't like that. He likes to really compete. So you kind of want to let the horse run,
Right. Okay. And so he's still now is he 13 yet, or he's still 12?
He's 12.
He's still 12.
Yeah, he turned 12.
I'm sorry?
He turned 12 in May.
Okay. And so now that he is playing at the national level, when did that start? Where you
Really, really early. Like I do not recommend this to everybody. Okay, like he played his first L1 at 9 years old, and he was about 9 years 4 months old when he played in Mobile. And so I always thought, like, I wasn't like, I just like, hey, let's go do it to experience it, because these things are long tournaments. So if you ever wanted to like win the tournament or win an L1, you have to kind of like know what it takes.
Mhm.
And so it started pretty early. I don't know if I would recommend that for everybody at
What
all.
was your experience like at that first L1 with him?
Awesome. I mean, it was so cool. I mean, obviously Mobile runs an incredible event, unbelievable tournament, 60 courts there, very cool. Gave James a taste of like big time tennis. He won like a round in like whatever draw, right? Which was great. That's all. That's that was awesome. And so really good experience that got him ready for the next L1s and kind of all that stuff.
Do you remember once he was done with his tournament play, did you guys hang out in Mobile? Did y'all stay and watch other kids? Did he hit with some of the other kids? How did you manage that first L1 event?
Well, we have a couple friends that are in the section, and he has a buddy who I coach him, and like his dad, like they reached out, and like they were super nice to us, and like because we knew a few people, but it's always James is always in this one where it's like he's super young, so it's like cool, but like the vibes are kind of strange because he's so young. So like a couple like that particular boy like kind of took him under his wing and we kind of like hung out, and I think it was cool that way. And then like afterwards we like went and saw like alligators and stuff like that. So it wasn't like it was just for the experience. It wasn't for like, oh hey, like we're gonna go out and this is a it was just to kind of see what's up and then hopefully have some fun and enjoy the tournament, enjoy playing, and see what you could do, you know.
And so after that first L1 experience, what was his takeaway from that? Do you remember having a conversation with him about like, what'd you think? Is this something you might want to do again?
Yeah, he's always been, I mean, he's always been pretty positive with it. He's just like, oh no, that was super fun. Like, I mean, traveling when you're 9 with your dad to play like a big tournament and like you can win like a round, I think that's definitely super fun. And those were like, the early times definitely, when there was no expectations. Um, Definitely super fun. I mean, he's always he's never if I said, Haley, do you want to play this tournament? He never says no. He's always like, yeah, no, I'm in. So, and that's to this day. Um, and so yeah, but I mean like getting inside the mind of a 9-year-old, like I think he had a great time.
Yeah.
That's like one of his favorite tournaments still. So
And so then what was next? You came back from the L1, he won
what was
around,
that?
he's a 9-year-old, he's playing against kids that are 3 years older than he is.
Right. And so then he played Little Mo again, and he played it in the nines, and then he won that pretty convincingly. Like he won like 0-0 in the finals. And so I was like, okay, all right, so kind of that's where we are. But the cool part about that was that if you win in the nines, you get a wild card to something called the Smrkva Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like it's it's not, but it is like the de facto like under 10 world championship. And that's
We
in
did a
Croatia.
podcast
Right.
where we touched on that recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and that like that's in Croatia. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like that. And his buddy Daniel Gardality, who was from San Diego, is a year older, who he had just done that and he won it. And I was like, oh wow, that sounds like a really cool experience. And so that was the next thing to do. And that was a really cool experience. The guy that runs it, Mio, is in like it's probably one of the most unique tennis events that I've ever been to, and I've been in tennis for like 35 years.
How
Um,
so? How was it unique?
so it's kind of just at his house. He has like a compound and he has 3 clay courts, and he gets kids from all over the world. It's a really kind of extensively long like application process. Um, it's not it's not just a tournament. Like he has all the kids, and every day there's a new activity. Um, like I mean, there's so many pro players have played in it. Like Alcaraz was finalist in it. Demonauer, we stayed in the same place that Kekmanovic stayed in, and so he's got all the like signed stuff because they'll send stuff in for the kids to have, and like there's like a Dingles tournament. There's a trip to the islands. So it's super cool. Like it's not just about just like rolling the balls out and having him play a tournament and see who's best. It's really just kind of like a super cool hang at like this really intimate place by a guy who like that's his like he loves doing that, and it was really an awesome experience. And then obviously like James won the tournament, so like made it even cooler. But like first taste of kind of international travel for playing tennis.
And he was 10 at that point.
He had just turned 10, yeah, because it was a
Okay.
June event. He was in May, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now you've got to be thinking, all right, this kid just won this really awesome international event. There really is something here.
Sure.
What do we do next?
Yeah. Yes. Um, and like I mean, there isn't like, I don't want to say yeah, there's like different events and stuff, but like there isn't like this crazy plan. Like, and especially like now, where as he gets into adolescence, like the goal always is going to be how can he enjoy playing tennis for the longevity of his career, wherever that is, wherever that goes. Um, because I mean, I think everybody knows who plays how up and down the sport is, how the every day is different, and sometimes it's not the most fun sport. So my job is to try to make sure that he enjoys himself playing tennis, and it's something that he would want to do after his career is over. Like if I feel like I do a good job if he's done playing tennis, that he goes out to the club and still hits balls and still enjoys playing. I mean, that's how I feel.
Mhm.
So like he doesn't necessarily have to be the most passionate about it, but like if it's still like, oh yeah, I love playing, then that's really the goal, you know? And maybe and also like try to, play college tennis as well.
And I mean, does he have pro aspirations? Do you have pro aspirations for him? Do y'all talk about that?
So, I mean, if you talk to him, yes, absolutely. Like he does. He has absolutely no idea what it takes. No idea how hard it is, how difficult, and I mean the percentages of that happening are extremely small.
Because he's 12 and
Right.
that's appropriate for a
And
12-year-old.
even if even if he knew all of that stuff, it's still so hard. I mean, like my job is to, yes, he can keep dreaming, absolutely, but we definitely want to be grounded in realism here. And especially like it's so hard when you have one that's real good, real young, just to kind of like they may not be great when they're 18. They may not be as good as they were when they were, 10. So like you gotta kind of keep rolling with it and just and everything. So like manage the expectations and like with like pro stuff and stuff like that, that's cool and everything. But like, I mean, like we're really aiming for college tennis. Like that would be great. And if he's and if you're and here's the thing, if you're good enough, you'll know.
Right.
You'll know. Like it's pretty obvious. So
Well, and we've heard so many times about, these kids who are number one in the 10s, number one in the 12s, maybe even number one in the 14s. And then by the 16s, they're out of it, they're done.
right.
Um, and as well as anybody would know about that stuff because you grew up in the sport. So does that make you nervous? Does that make you nervous at all that he has had so much success so young and maybe hasn't had the experience of losing a lot, which maybe would help drive him to keep, want to keep getting better? I don't know. Like, how do you balance that?
It's a great question. I mean, like, does it make me nervous? Does it scare me? Absolutely. Every day. I mean, every day. Like, no one wants to be the best player in the 12s. Honestly. Like, these are really cool things. Like, he was number one in the 12s as a 10-year-old, but like they don't mean anything at all. They're super cool. And it's just so scary because it's like, wow, when you have that much success that early, is that even good? Like, because, I mean, like, because like you go to a different tournament and national tournaments like, oh, I've already done that. Like I've already done that. Like how is that even exciting anymore? And so like again, like that's basically my job is not to and luckily like James is not a guy that's like, oh, look at me, I'm so good. Like he's not that way. But it is my job as a parent and the coach to make sure that it's not this end all be all. You've got to be this next big star, all the things type thing, because it's really about, because I mean, pre-puberty tennis and post-puberty tennis are like two different things. Like he could be a completely different player. And kids that can barely play now could be way better than him later. And so my job is to like make sure that like he understands these things, and it's not always going to be this way, and it's great if it is, but like we're just trying to enjoy ourselves playing and trying to work, to get better. But in in a very positive, kind of nurturing way, and especially with all the success he's had early on.
So we hear a lot about, building a tennis game to be successful at age 18, and
Right.
which takes a lot of planning. It also typically involves a lot of losing along the way because you're playing a game that's very different from kids that are playing to win in the 12s. Um, but it doesn't sound like there's been a lot of losing along the way in James's game. So, are you trying to balance that development of his style of play so that he can be successful now, but also it can continue to develop as he gets older and stronger?
I mean, I think there was like, especially when he was playing more 12s, I think there was like, yeah, like let's be successful. And then like once he was successful, it was kind of like, it wasn't just my thought, but it was like his thought to be like, okay, well, like that's great, but this isn't going to work in the 14s. This isn't going to work in the 16s. Like, so now like for him, like he doesn't really play very much 12s. Not because he's too good. It's just that, to be honest, like he learns by experience. Like I could tell him like, hey bud, that's not gonna work. And he's gonna like, okay, cool, man, cool dad, sure. But like when you play a 15-year-old kid who's going to knock you off the court if you do not hit the right type of shot, it's easier learning that way for him. And so yeah, I mean, like I think it's also tough because like you just kind of don't know how, like I think he's going to be long and tall. And so, I mean, from what it looks like. And so like you've got to be able to kind of like, we got to work serve, we got to work forehand, we got to like, he's like, he likes to hit his touch shots, he likes to do all that stuff. And so the, I think the progression from like 10-year-old to 14-year-old or like 12 to 14 is pretty big time, especially as you're growing. And like he's kind of like this lanky, long-limbed guy. So like just being able to like still have some coordination and all that stuff, like that's kind of like what he's going through right now. It's like you're good in 12s, that's great. You make a lot of balls, but I mean, now we've got to try to like really work points, and we got to try to dictate and then come forward and do all that stuff. And I think that's a tough one, if you, especially when you're pre-puberty.
Yeah.
You
So,
know.
what's his week looking like now? Is he still in regular school? What's his tennis training schedule?
So now he was in school till 6th grade, and then he's in ICL Academy. And so just a little bit easier. I mean, like he was missing like 21, 22 days of the year. And so the school was super cool about it, but like it was kind of like at that point, it was kind of like, we should probably do something online just for like flexibility reasons, because some of the tournaments like they finish on Monday, you have to fly out on Friday. And so it's just a lot. And so now he's in online school, and he likes that. And training has definitely been interesting, because when we first started, I was like, oh great, this is great. We can do like 3-4 hours a day. I can do like a group, and then I can do like an hour and a half lesson, and he's gonna get so good. And like this is perfect. And that like absolutely that did not work. Like that was about a month of that, and it was like, James was ready to kill me. And well, I mean, like the workload is, like you have a group and then you have a lesson, and like I the thing is, it's just like you know what you is gonna, as a coach, like it's gonna work, and it's how it's gonna make a kid better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to do it. And then it's not for me to say like, well, no, we're going to make you do this. Like I have to figure out like, okay, like how are we going to make him be able to do something that's going to be fun for him? And, you know, that sort of thing. So like we've had to adjust, and especially as like with a growing 12-year-old, like the tiredness of the stuff, like I mean, he's a lot more tired than he used to be when he was 9. Like 9, he could play 5 hours a day if he wanted to, but at 12, with long limbs and stuff, hour and a half session is a lot for him. So then we try to break that up into like maybe twice a day-ish if he can, and sometimes not. And so, and that's hard with a group too, because some of the kids can train really long. So then I have to kind of like figure out what he's gonna do and then what they're gonna do, and then like all of that sort of stuff. So it's definitely a little bit of a tightrope for sure.
Well, and at 12, his body's starting to go through puberty. Hormones are kicking in, so the kids do require a lot more sleep. They're tired just from what's happening inside. Not to mention, the social pressures of being 12 and all of that. And so I think it's cool that you recognize pretty quickly that your idea of what an ideal week would look like didn't really jibe with reality.
Yeah, I mean, a lot, a lot, and I think this is also like decent advice for parents, is that like I try my best to not project my wishes and thoughts and things that he should be doing onto him. Like, because my projection is not what is in reality for him. Like, like to make a, like you can have like to make the prototypical champion, you play 3 hours a day and they work on this and they work on this but like in reality, like some kids are not like that. And like, it is not for me to project this onto him at all. Like he should be the guy kind of like telling me what works, what doesn't. And he doesn't even have to tell me, I can figure it out. And so that's kind of how we do it. And he's not a like, hey, we're gonna drill for an hour and a half and like I love this. And he doesn't want to do that. And so I have to kind of just work with that and not project the thoughts of what I want for a perfect player onto him.
What are y'all's conversations like when you introduce something and maybe it's not what he wants to be doing?
Uh, it kind of depends on my mood. Like, because I'll be super pumped for something and then be like, oh, like, hey, I really thought about this. We're gonna work on this. And he'll be like, no, this is not good. And I'm like, try to not be super disappointed. Like I think for the longest time was just being able to work on his serve. I mean, I think we can probably still like at this time, 20 minutes of serve is the most we can do. And that is, I mean, up until maybe a year ago, like 5 minutes would be it.
Wow.
Where I have other kids that will do serve for an hour and
Mhm.
he will not. And like you can tell, we start serving and like the conversation that he just goes and like the focus goes. And like I've had to really be okay with that because I know that that is not something that is super interesting for him. And do I think he can have a much better serve than what he has right now? And we should totally work on it. Yes, but I have to be comfortable with the fact that like he'll be, when he's ready to do it, he'll do it.
Will there ever be a time where you'll say, like looking into your crystal ball, you know what? He really needs to work on the serve. I'm not the guy to get him to do that. Maybe let's find another coach to come in and work on that with him.
Actively searching. No, I'm absolutely fine with that. Like I am not someone that's like I have to coach my kid. It's my way or any way. That is all up to James. James does not want anyone else working with him really at all. at this point, like obviously that's probably absolutely going to change and as he gets older, but right now, like, I mean, I'd love for that to happen, like if somebody can kind of help out and do that. I would love for it, but like right now James doesn't really want that. He doesn't really
He's
want.
not open to it. Yeah,
He
I
wants to
get
be with
that.
dad, like kind of just back to what we were talking about before. Just wants to be kind of with dad.
Well, enjoy every moment of that
Yeah, it's
because
not a bad thing. It's absolutely not a
that
bad thing.
that is not a bad thing at all. It's a fantastic thing. And you're very lucky, that you'll have this thing in common that you can do together, which kind of leads me to my next kind of question on this, which is how do you balance your coach hat and your dad hat? Do you have to balance those things, or are you always wearing both hats?
It's a good question. So I feel like I am wearing both hats a lot. Um, it's tough on the court because not only I'm on the court with him almost 95% of the time, watching every point because he's playing in groups. And so I'm doing my best not to every shot he missed go like, hey buddy, what do you, I don't know about that, because like who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear that every shot, every miss, every time? Like nobody wants to hear that. So it's a delicate balance for sure. And especially when we're home, like we're not really talking too much tennis. Like James is pretty compartmentalized. And then he also has a younger brother who plays tennis. So like, you know, I'm with both those guys a lot. And so we try to not talk too much tennis on the stuff. Like we're more like kind of hanging out, playing video games and stuff like that. Like, you're not, it's as a parent coach, like my job is to really look at it through James's eyes and like not be super heavy-handed with, like, hey buddy, let's learn here, let's learn here. So it's like, it's a constant back and forth for sure.
What is your wife's role in this whole tennis thing?
This whole tennis thing, it's constantly evolving, that's for sure. So with James, it's kind of like she's a great supporter of James. She has the love for him. She's not in the tennis world at all. Um, and she runs her own business, and like, I mean, she funds kind of most of all of this stuff for us. Um, so, but her job is to be supportive. And this my other son Bo plays, like now she's a little bit more of a tennis mom because we have two players playing in different spots now. And so she's a good one just because she's not she's not a tennis player. She didn't grow up in that world. So it's good to have that because you're not necessarily just focusing. And for me, like, I mean, obviously I focus on tennis a lot. And so like it's great for her to be there where it's like we don't have to do that. She's always saying like, "Hey, we're gonna this weekend with no tennis. We're gonna hang out as a family." And like, as much as I'm like, "Oh, well, but there's a tournament," but she's a great grounding, and like she's also a great like voice of reason, and like so that I don't get like too obsessed with like, "Oh, well, there's a tournament here, there's a tournament there," like, well, we can play that, and so she's great in that role.
That's important. It's really
Absolutely.
important to have the balance. If one day James or your younger son is Bo?
Bo, he's 9. Yeah.
Okay. If one or both of them one day comes to you and says, "You know what, Dad? I don't really like tennis anymore. I don't want to do this anymore." How are you going to handle that?
Ooh, would be tough. Because kind of our lives are like kind of built into being on the court. Obviously that's okay. Like I come from a baseball family. My dad really wanted me to play baseball. I didn't play tennis until I was 12. And so, I can understand how that would be really difficult. I would be fine with that. However, they would have to probably try to do some other type of sports, and try to find passions in other ways. Because I definitely understand like having your dad be the head pro there and the coach and the stuff, like, that could be a lot. And like I can absolutely see that, but definitely would want them to be trying to find a passion in something else, and absolutely would help them as much as they possibly could. And so they could kind of, do something that they would really enjoy if they don't enjoy playing tennis.
James is at an age now where he's old enough that you can have these kinds of harder conversations about what it means to be a tennis player, what it means to follow your passion, what it means to have your parent be your coach and be that intimately involved in your day to day. Are these things that you'll talk about? And if so, how do those conversations kind of start? Is it just kind of an organic thing that maybe happens on the ride to and from the courts, or are you more purposeful about it to make sure that from the emotional, mental side of things that he's in a good place?
Yeah, I mean, these are conversations, like, to be honest, like this week we've had conversations like that. Because like obviously I'm with him like almost all day. I know his moods. I know like when he's on the court, I can kind of figure out like is he enjoying it? Is he not? And so yeah, I mean, I think these are really, really important conversations to have, especially with a kid like James, because you always want to feel like he's playing because he wants to play, not because he has to play, not because his dad works at the club and he's got nothing else to do. And so when he goes into like, and again, every day it's ups and downs. And I think for every tennis player is like that. And so, like it's just kind of ensuring like, well, why are we out here? What do you think? Like this week, like what have your thoughts been? Like, have you been enjoying playing? Like, can we change anything? Um, like it's like yesterday, like I was like, oh hey, like we can do a lesson before the class, and he's like, I was like, well, I was like, if you don't want to do it, like don't do it. Don't. Like, and he's like, well, but I feel bad I'm like, don't feel bad. I only want you if you really want to do it. And he's like, okay, and that's fine. And like again, like I'm trying not to project. Like and it's good that I can kind of like sense his stuff. So like the ebbs and flows of playing tennis. Like there's times that you really want to play, there's times that you kind of don't want to play. But I don't want him to feel like, oh, my dad, like he thinks I don't want to play anymore, and like now I feel so bad and all this stuff. Like I want him to feel those feelings. I want him to feel what he's feeling with tennis and with all of that sort of stuff, and have it be okay and have us work through it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the whole thing, is to help.
Well, and I think learning how to express those feelings is part of growing up, it's part of the process. And so giving a child space to safely express how they're feeling and being accepting of that is really important, and it sounds like you're creating that for both your boys, which you know good on you
Trying,
for it. I
trying
mean,
to. I mean, they are also teaching me,
of course.
yeah, how to do stuff. I mean, like I'm still kind of winging it here, but yeah,
Listen, my oldest is 36 and I am still learning how to be a parent. So it does not stop.
yeah, yeah. So, and those guys, they're both of my boys are emotional beings, so they can, they don't have any problems expressing themselves to me. And so yeah, like I said, I just try to work with it. I try to work as best I can, and I try to not, like, there's just not a lot of hard, like, no, you're doing this. Like, this is like, I'm trying my best to kind of just see through stuff, because it is a very, very tough and day by day thing to have your dad be on the court with you almost at all times.
Yeah. Do ratings and rankings ever come up in conversation with you guys? What role do those play in your coach player relationship and then in your father son relationship, if any?
I think at first, yeah, for sure, because like, he wanted to be number one, and he wanted to like win an L1 and all that
Where
sort
did that come from though, to want to be number one? Like, how does a kid know that that is a thing?
Well, I mean, it's hard because we goal set, my students and I and James, like we goal set every year. So like there's particular goals that they want, and tournaments they want to play, and like strokes they want to get better at, and all that stuff. So I think it becomes a little bit from that.
Mm-hmm.
With James, he's very competitive when it comes to those things. And so like I said, I think at first, yes, but once those were done, like he doesn't once he was one, and then once like I think he won the L1, that he won Easter Bowl, I think that's really not that much anymore. Like he really just wants to try to get better, enjoy playing tennis. That's like pretty much what he'll say. Um, I mean, obviously he's lucky to have accomplished so much so early, that he can have those thoughts, that like, I think it's good that he does, because, I mean, like it's every junior, it's like, what's a UTR and all that sort of thing. So I think, but if you can kind of get them in a thought pattern of like, well, no, I'm just trying to get better, and the UTR will be where it is if I get better, then I think that's a better way to think about it than,
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're good, man, you're gonna be good. Like your UTR will be good. You'll win tournaments. Like, but if you're not as good, then you won't. So get better, you
Right.
know?
And there's no shortcut to that.
Absolutely
You
not.
can go point chase, you can go play weaker draws, but what is that doing long term for your development? Not much.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like right now he just wants to play the best competition that he can. Um, and that's something I can, I mean, he's been taking more losses because he's playing 14, 16s, and I think he's okay with it. I mean, he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. So, because I mean, like he could have played L1 hard courts 12s, and I mean, there's an absolute case for him to play that, but he did win Easter Bowl, and he won singles and doubles. So I was like, do you want to play 12s or 14s? It's up to you. He's like, well, I want to play 14s because I want to play the better players. And okay, I mean, that's fine. As long as he won an L1, then he's proved himself. That's fine. Then he can go do that. But if he had not won an L1, he's definitely not going to play an L1 up. That's for sure.
Got it. I think that's so interesting. And that's always a question I get asked is like, when should a kid start playing up? You are the second parent in a very short period of time who has told me that, you have to win at this level before you play the next level. And I think that's the right approach. That's always Wayne Bryan, the father of the Bryan brothers, that was always his approach to things, be the best on your block, then the best in your neighborhood, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really sane way to go about it. But I think a lot of people are looking for the shortcut. They're looking to bypass the steps and to
I mean,
achieve.
tough. I think you sort of can if you really, really think the kid is like something super special, and like, or just like larger or something. But like, yeah, I mean, I think the USCA thing is actually really easy, in my opinion, to kind of figure out. It's like, okay, well, if you want to play up, then like, what are you doing in the age division? Are you really good in your age division? Okay, well then, sure. But like, yeah, like James isn't going to play an L1 14s unless he wins an L1 12s, and so on and so forth. So I think it's kind of actually easier to do it that way, but some people want to put him, 11 years old in the 18s. I mean, like I've seen that before. I'm not sure I would absolutely agree with that, but maybe, you know.
That's the dilemma, right? There's so many pathways, and
Right.
it doesn't all work for every kid. You got to figure it out as you go. I'm going to let you go in just a second because I know we've been going a
Sure.
while, but I wanted to just ask, is there a plan moving forward? James is now in middle school. Soon he's going to be in high school. Do you let yourself think that far ahead in terms of training, competition, what he's going to be doing day to day? Or are you just very focused on here and now? Or a mix?
I mean, it's a good question. I think again, James is going to lead that pretty much. Like what I see on the court and how I see him, off the court, like he'll lead it. So, I mean, I know what to do if he's super into it and he's like raring to go and like he wants to travel and he wants to do that stuff. Okay, cool. We'll do that for sure. But if he's like, hey, I just want to get better. I want to be in Southern Cal and I can stay here and I can still get better and that's fine, then we'll do that as well. I think especially like when he's 13, that's where kind of like player development for USTA kind of gets a little bit more interested. That's I think that's going to be an interesting one because we're on a different coast. And so that'll be I'm interested to see what happens there. Um,
So maybe we need to check back in with you in a year.
Sure, yeah. And so, I think but the great news is like I don't know if it's okay if he doesn't do it that pathway. Being in Southern Cal, he can still be very, very good and playing all different USTA, and then he can play, the UTR and the PTTs and stuff like that. But again, like I go as much as he wants me to go. Like if he's not into it, then we tone it down. If he's into it, then we do a little bit more. Um, so like that's kind of and like it's I'm with him all the time, so like I know where his brain is like, and I'm not gonna make a kid go all over the country if he doesn't want to go all over the country. Like that's not gonna be fun for me. It's not gonna be fun for him. If he wants to do that, he'll let me know. And then we'll keep going with that. That's great. But you know, that's where I'm with that. I mean, like these, especially with like with the really good kids, like they'll show you. They'll show you if they really want to play. And so my job is to be really okay with any of that. Not if he just wants to play the local stuff and he's fine with that, it's my job to be fine with that. Or if he wants to be, he wants to go international and play ITS, then I got to try to see how we can do that. But it's kind of up to him. I can help all the best I can and then see what happens.
Love it. Quinn Borchard, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. And congratulations on what you as a dad and you as a coach are doing with both your boys. I think it's really something to aspire to for a lot of parents out there. I think you've shared some really valuable messages with us and given us a lot of things to think about. And I wish you continued success.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been awesome being on here. I'm honored to be here again, and I'm a fan of yours as well, and the Facebook and all that stuff. And I mean, some of my parents will text me about what's going on the Facebook stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, cool. I'm gonna be on the podcast. So it was very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to my audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.